Tactix and I had this like brief conversation, and it had me thinking. We have, especially so last week we talked about Invincible and the absolutely outstanding ending of that first season. When we briefly talked about how other series haven't really done that. So I want to talk to you guys and also listeners as well. Superhero films and TV series, would you say that they, on average, do good endings, or do they drop the endings?
I'm thinking of Marvel right now and drop the endings. They go up and then they come down.
I think a show runs the risk of dropping the ball ending wise when they've overextended the series. Like I think we get so caught up in the world, and we get so attached to the series as a whole that like even we don't want a series to end, but because we're in denial because of how much we enjoy the series. But it comes a point in time where like they run out of stories to tell. And at that point, they're just pulling shit out of their asses. Like, for example, like, you know me, like I was a fan of Smallville. You know, it did drop the ball like progressively in a major way as the seasons went on. And I don't think that show needed to last. What was it, like 8 seasons,
10.
not 10 seasons? Yeah, they could have ended that way earlier and still left on somewhat of a better note than they did ending at 10. But
Yeah,
I feel like just because of the popular yeah, but the same thing with Arrow too. Like Arrow started to take a huge dip, and I feel like, you know, Stephen Amell, maybe I think he realized that, and he was like, yo, I gotta pull out. Like this is getting too much now. I gotta start doing other things.
You know when the show took a dip? When Stephen Amell fell off that cliff. Like it was good, and then after that point, it was like he died, and then he came back, and then it was like it just never was quite the same. Like that episode was for me like the best episode, and I don't remember it being. Only thing I think remember being good after that was that one time they did the oneer shot like through the warehouse fight, and they did this long like one take shot, and it was the stunts were awesome. That was it, but it wasn't like the episode was good. That moment was good.
Are you talking about when he was fighting Ra's al Ghul? And he got stabbed.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I agree with that.
It was a pinnacle. He fell off the cliff, and the show went with it.
And he stayed down there, yo. So I think as much as I love, like, if I'm really invested in a show, I want it to go on for as long as it can. But I think there has to come a point in time where you you end before you get canceled, because I think that's another issue. Like when series run the risk of like overstaying their welcome to the point where networks will be like, okay, well, we got to cancel this. We have maybe one more season left. And if you've been setting up to do like multiple seasons, and then the network comes and says, okay, yeah, this is your last season, so you got to wrap this shit up. Now you have to condense what you originally were setting up into one final season, and sometimes that's where things start to fall apart. And so I think
go on.
No, you were gonna say something.
Or I was gonna say that, like, for me, I would say that I don't think superhero comic book films have a long history of sticking the landing, period. Like whether it's in the film itself or in the series overall. Like MCU, aside from the first Avengers and definitely not the second one, the third and the fourth one of Infinity War and Endgame, those three definitely stuck their landings. Winter Soldier, I would say, like, it did. The ending wasn't terrible, but it wasn't as good as the rest of the film. Civil War, like, that one landed very well, very good. But like, other than that, like, out of all the films that Marvel has done, I can't really think of anything that has done like a really good ending. And it kind of shows in how the series, like the TV series, have ended. Like WandaVision and Falcon and the Winter Soldier both kind of had those really weak landings. And I'm just trying to think of like, well, I have my issues with Snyderverse, so I'm going to leave that universe not for me to judge. But X-Men's X-Men 2 definitely sucked at their landing. X-Men 3 was just sucky. Days of Future Past, I think, was a decent ending, and Logan, I fucking love that ending of that film. But like literally, that's really all. That's it, and we have a lot of material. Like even Daredevil, the Marvel, like or I should say the Netflix series, and all the other Netflix series is like those ending, except for the third season. Third season's ending was fucking top notch when he was like fighting Wilson Fisk and was like I think Tactix, you were the one who told me that he lost his voice and he just kept doing the scene anyway.
I beat you. That
yeah,
gave me chills, bro.
Yeah, exactly. So like again, like these are just handful of things out of like the entire history of films and TV. I gotta say, I don't think comic books have a good ending TV. An ending ratio. What do you think, Darcy?
So I'm gonna go to WandaVision and Falcon for a second because they're recent, and I want to say something about them. I think that the main problem I find, and I respect what Tactix was saying about like you have to condense it. Like once you have to condense it, you're pretty much screwed, right?
Yeah.
Like if you had 3 seasons left in your story, but let's just say you're right. Like, let's say you're not something of set of cancellation. You take those 2 shows, which clearly they only plan to do this season, right? For now. And the last episode sucked. So I think what the problem with those 2 is it's not that their concepts for the last episodes were bad. It was the delivery of the concept. So like if you want to have a good season, you should plan your last episode at the freaking beginning, right? Before you start. You need to know where you're going, right? If you look at something like Ozark, like this stuff is like solid all the way through, right to the very end. A lot of great dramas leave you on an amazing last episode. They wrap up the story and then send you off going, hey, hold up. What's happening next season? You just what did you just do there? You just go end it there? Oh damn. And then you're so excited. But I feel like WandaVision and Winter Soldier are setting up for a movie, right? Fantastic. And WandaVision, her resolving of her grief, that moment was amazing. And overall, they set up some good points and some good ending, but the spectacle of the fight just was so whack that it pulled the quality of the episode down, right? Falcon and some of it was the fighting was definitely the weak part, but then it was like this big moment that made sense, and that made sense why they were going to that point of the film, but the delivery of it was weak, right? Like standing in the street with a couple of officials, it felt hokey, right? It didn't feel real, right? And so I feel like some of it is usually most of the time they fail at it because they don't plan the ending. They plan episode by episode. Let's milk this train. Let's milk this train. Oh, we got to wrap up, right? And that's how it feels to the audience. And I feel like some of these other ones, it doesn't land because they don't understand what they need to deliver at the last moment, right? They if it's going to be a big fight, you better deliver that big fight. If I'm waiting all this time, if I've seen good fights and the last fight isn't as good as the other one, you should have switched your budget around. You should have gave me a little more character development and a little less in that fight and put that money over here. Because when that moment doesn't sell, that's the last thing I got to remember. It's like oh, I'm gonna give you a 3-course meal, and I'm gonna go half-ass on that dessert, right? Like he's like, it leaves a bad taste, right? So I don't know. I just feel like they don't focus enough on how they're exiting. I feel like they need to really put more love into how they exit the films, and so that they can give that bigger spectacle in that superhero world.